Shalom and good day all, this is Tahilin29 back again for another DC comic review. And in this DC comic review, I am reviewing Action Comics issue 1052. And I just want to point out that this happens to have 3 stories in it. I will be covering them individually. In this, the first one, the second one, and of course the third, to which I will give the cover rating before I move into the first story, and then its art and story rating. Just some things that I might not be able to cover will be the locations and even time, and maybe even some comic references I might not be able to cover. But the things that I will be able to cover is mainly the cast of characters. So now it's time to get started. And like I said, first things first, let's move into the now it's time to move into the cover rating. And does this cover in any way, shape, or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough, it does. But as for the cover rating and its depiction and the way it's sort of like set up and made, I think it really needs a little bit more work. I don't really like it that much, to which I give the cover rating a 6.5 out of 10. Now, I want to point out why. And one of the reasons why is the Philosian twins that we see here. Their faces look a bit off and also a bit creepy. It's the only way to put it. And I really think some more work and detail probably could have been put into the cover just to make every character stand out, including Imposter John Kent. And there's also no appearance of Power Girl in this, or in the actual cover, which is disappointing. And that's why I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now, it's time to move into the first story in relation to this, which is called The House of Metallo. And we'll go pretty much through that as quick as possible and then move on to the next story. And, of course, the ratings for each story. So, as the story begins, we have one of the supers here. It looks like it might be Connor Kent. And, of course, we've got one of the villains making an appearance here, but we don't actually get to see their full face. As well as something linking to a group called the Blue Earth Movement. Of course, we encounter Metallo as we finally move into the next couple of scenes. We see Steel getting his ass beat, plus Metallo getting a couple of hits back. The story, of course, continues, and we also meet back with the Philosian twins from Mongol's world. Seriously, pass the twins off to someone else, not this Superman family. I don't know, give them the John Johns. And of course, restore the Super Sons. Hashtag that. Of course, we get to see a little bit more of what's happening, of what's taken throughout the day. And of course, we meet up with Lois Lane and the twins again. Some things continue more with the story. They get to somewhat hear a story of sorts as things move into the next part. And I think this might be covering the character of Metallo. Things advance until we learn sort of like how he came to be, who he is. We return back to the Philosian twins as well as the House of Kent. And we seem to cover quite a bit in this. Of course, a little more continues with Metallo and who he's going up against until we finally reach the end of this part of the story. Okay, moving into the next thing, and that is the art rating for the story. And to which I gave the art a 7 out of 10. I did actually quite enjoy the art for House of Metallo. Now it's time to move on to the next thing, and that is the cast of characters, to which we, of course, had Superman, still Metallo, Lois Lane, Crypto made an appearance, and also the Philosian twins, of course, and also the other members who make up the Superman family. But for the overall story writing in this, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. That's right, a 6.5 out of 10. I didn't really enjoy it as much as expected, and I'd have to say, Joshua Williamson, your quality of storytelling is going down, not up. Now it's time to move on to something a little bit more fun. Story 2, and this is the Super Sun side of things. Woo! So consider this a Rainbow Press and Comics crossover with the Super Sun's Fortress of Attitude review, which is happening. And as the story begins, we get to see that it takes place several years later, and we move into, of course, back to our favorite Super Sun, or one of our favorite Super Sons, and that is John. And of course, in this we have the cast of characters of Superman, John Samuel Kent, we have Gleanna. We also encounter Killamech, who is actually going after her, and we also meet back up with Lloyd, aka Doombreaker. So as the story continues, I quite enjoy the art in this and how the story comes about. She gets to see that he uses heat vision, but she also seems to think, do kids of this planet have the same thing as you, or is this completely different? Of course, we encounter Killamech, and it's really nice to see Killamech here. And yeah, he looks like an actual mech or a mechanical droid sent to kill. So basically a Terminator type thing sent to kill a princess, or at least stop a princess. We move into a little bit more of what happens, and we finally get John calling out for his old man. So as this is happening, we start to see Superman start to head out. And last but not least, jumping into a scene that brings Lois Lane to the front. And of course, we encounter Doombreaker once again. So we learn that piece of the original Doomsday is having some effect on Doombreaker or Lloyd once again. So for this, for the art in the story, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed the art. The cast of characters consisting of Superman, Lois Lane, John Samuel Kent, the real John Samuel Kent, not this imposter that we're seeing right now. Of course, we had Killamech, Gleanna, and Doombreaker right here. For the overall story rating, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Now it's time to move on to the last story, which centers around Power Girl. And I think you might be quite surprised as to what this story gets rated. But we'll go through the art. I do quite like the art in this. We, of course, see what's happening here with Power Girl. We also get a meet up with, so we get a bit of an all girls date night, I guess, with the characters. We, of course, encounter more of whoever the hell this character is that Power Girl is talking to. She reminds me a lot of Meghan Markle. I think same with the writer too. They might not like that comparison, but that's how the story comes off. And of course, last but not least, towards the end. Alright, moving into the art rating for the third story, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Moving into the story, the cast of characters, we of course had Power Girl and Supergirl. They were the only ones I could recognize. Who this other person is, I got no bloody idea who they are. But they're definitely having a Meghan Markle experience. It's the only other way I could put it. And I don't like Meghan Markle either. So for this story rating, I give it a 3 out of 10. Well, that's all for this. Until then, let's keep it colourful. And that's for the Rainbow Press and comics side of things. And for the Super Sons related thing, we'll see you back at the Super Sons Fortress of Attitude next time.